'Cause life's a bitch and then you die.
A kid from the Queensbridge projects made an album so powerful the United States government literally archived it beside the most important recordings in history, and it still almost never came out. This is the insane story behind Illmatic. Illmatic is celebrated today as a global classic, an album that reshaped hip-hop and then hit the world stage. But before any of that happened, it created a wave on the streets of New York, then entered New York's prison system. And the way inmates first received Illmatic's debut explains everything. OnPoint Stories brings in the first special guest collab, St. Laz, who was incarcerated in Comstock when Illmatic dropped. And he reveals how Nas was actually received behind those walls.
Shout out to OnPoint Stories. Make sure y'all subscribe, check the content, you heard? I was on B7 in Comstock. It's a bunch of tears on top of each other, but if you speak loud enough, everybody can hear you all up and down the tiers. So one night we on the tier debating hip hop, and dudes is, we got into who's the best rapper in New York.
The spring of 1994 marked a cultural crossroads. Films like Pulp Fiction.
What does Marcellus Wallace look like? What? What country you from? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
Stop fucking around and be a man.
And The Lion King hit theaters, destined to become timeless classics.
And will rise with you as the new king.
And this'll all be mine?
Everything.
Everything the light touches.
At the same time, albums like Murder Was the Case.
As I look up at the sky, my mind starts tripping, a tear drops my eye.
Ready to Die.
Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing.
And Method Man dropped. Proof that hip-hop was entering its diamond age. But just when it seemed the era couldn't get any better, something truly revolutionary was brewing. Not in Hollywood, but in the heart of Queensbridge, New York. A 20-year-old prodigy named Nas was about to change everything with his debut album, Illmatic.
It's full of crime, full of all of this crack, drugs, all of that, just like every other ghetto. And it's the foundation right here, you know what I'm saying? My foundation. Where I started at, where I grew up at, 40 side of Vernon, you know what I mean?
45 is the place that is giving me great. One love.
Born in 1973, Nas grew up in the largest public housing projects in the United States, Queensbridge. His father, a musician, gave him a worldly view beyond the city blocks, cultivating a library inside their home that served as a sanctuary from the complex city streets. By age 9, Nas was writing lyrics, and by age 16, he was recording. In 1991, at just 17 years old, he made his on-record debut on Main Source's Live at the Barbecue. That single verse, that one moment, changed everything and created a significant buzz. However, the reality is far different than it appears, because fate stepped in.
I had a friend, a real friend, William Graham. We called him Will. We used to play around and make music when we was young. Me and Will, we'd make tapes and stuff like that and play them for our friends. We look forward to getting together and making tapes.
Willy lived right upstairs. He was like my surrogate son also. I had another way of looking at the world. And the combination of the two, their minds were like boom, like an explosion.
I used to go upstairs to his crib, and he'd be baking brownies and taping videos. So one time he said it to a girl on the phone. I guess she said, "What you doing?" He said, "Just baking brownies and taping videos." And he bust out laughing. I guess to him it sounded real soft. So every day he'd say to somebody, "What you doing?" Baking brownies, taping videos. Like he'd say this to everybody. It's all I want to hear. He made you laugh. He was all about having a good time. That's how we was. We was like two peas in a pod,
In 1992, tragedy struck. His best friend and initial DJ, Will, was sadly gunned down in the Queensbridge projects. His brother, Jungle, was shot but miraculously survived.
Yeah, I got shot out here. My man Will got killed out here. I was with him talking when he got killed. You know what I'm saying? My man Nino.
Man, what was behind that, man? What happened?
Man, we was little kids, drunk, you know what I'm saying? My man beat this nigga up. She called up baby pops and I'm from Brooklyn. We was little kids drunk, not knowing that is real. And niggas came out here, they was drunk too, little kids drunk, coming out here to just kill somebody. We didn't know what was going down. I was a little nigga, I was trying to tell niggas to give me the gun. They didn't understand, they thought I was just crazy, you know what I'm saying? Nobody gave me the gun. The niggas came, they rolled up, we to fight them, they not playing, you know what I'm saying? So Will was standing there, I was like, yo, here these niggas come down. Will was like, yo, he looked back, he was on a bike, he looked back, he was like, man, fuck these niggas, son, I ain't running from nobody. I was like, all right, fuck them. So the niggas came over there, they just pulled out blamming, you know what I'm saying? They hit Will up in his back. You know what I'm saying? They shot him in his back. Then on my Will fell, I didn't even run, yo. I was just standing there like, oh, ish. I guess I was like, you know what I'm saying? I was just traumatized or whatever. And the nigga, when I came back to my senses, the nigga was aiming at me. So I was like, you know what I'm saying? I might as well go too. But something just started making me dip bullets. I was dipping the bullets like a nigga could dip tag, like Barry Sanders. I was dipping the bullets, you know what I'm saying? But I just took one in the leg, boom, a little sprinkle on the shoulder, boom. And I was all right, I didn't even feel like I was so young and my adrenaline was pumping. My man died, I didn't even feel, I was still walking around like, oh, this niggas like, yo, son, you hit, you know what I'm saying?
When I heard the shots, I came, you know, I knew that the shots would happen in the area where we at. So I went downstairs and I came outside, and the first person I saw was my bro, was Jungle. He was on the ground. And his eyes were open, he was good. Then I see my man. And so he wasn't moving.
This traumatic event became the profound wake-up call, forcing Nas to stand at a critical crossroads. He had to choose, fully immerse himself in the street life or commit wholeheartedly to his musical career.
You gotta choose. I'm a musician. It is very hard to be a musician and a real street person, because you know you gotta be there. Like just like the music, I say you gotta do the work to be in the music. You have to work to be a real street person too. So there's stuff that you have to do that a musician might have to take his life out of.
He chose music, fueled by a deep hunger. Nas went looking for guidance in the music industry, and he found it in MC's Search of Third Base.
Brooklyn. Real cool, cause Brooklyn's cool.
So Nas stays behind, and when everybody leaves, Nas tells me like he got this deal he don't feel right about, and he wanted me to take a look at it. And I said I can't. I can't. Like it's legally I can't do it. I said, but if you sign a Searchlight, I can help you. And he goes, well, what does that mean? I said, it's simple. It's a one-page agreement. You sign a Searchlight.
Production deal?
Production deal. I'll furnish the album. I said, I won't take any money. I won't take any advance. I'll make sure you get the best deal in the world. And then on your publishing, I won't take any publishing. I'll take a 5% admin fee, which means I'll help the publisher administer your publishing to make sure people don't use your shit in the wrong way. So you're taken care of, and you'll keep all your shit. Right. And it's a one-page agreement. And he goes, all right, I got to think about it. Because he's 17 years old. Like, right. You know. Right. So he's like, so I was like, oh, he's never coming back. He's not. Right. Like, even I knew, like, in '93, he's going to be the greatest MC of all time.
Search secured an exclusive production agreement to represent his recording career. Search took the demo to the legendary Def Jam Records, but Russell wanted no parts of a deal with Nas.
Russell said I sounded like G, confronted.
But Search knew Nas was destined for greatness. He assured him that he'd receive a proper deal, making sure all Nas ever asked for to get his mother out of the projects would be realized. He was eventually signed to Columbia Records by Faith Newman.
We certainly felt that this was a classic in the making that was going to stand the test of time, and it was going to bring him to heights that, you know, none of us could probably imagine.
I knew he was a genius and a poet, and I met him in 1991, and I was at Columbia Records at the time, and he came in and you had this big Bubble Goose on, and he had his head down. He wouldn't really talk to me or make eye contact, you know. And so I was trying to like kind of find a way in. And I think I mentioned Wild Style. And he said, and he kind of like looked at me for a second. He said, so you're like the lady in Wild Style. I assumed he meant the blonde chick, but I said, not really. But anyway, that was the icebreaker.
This is where the situation becomes unbelievable. Nas assembled a supergroup of producers rarely seen on a solo artist's debut. We're talking about Hall of Fame, first ballot legends like DJ Premier.
The story takes place back in the South Bronx. We're at the age of 14, I was already knocking off punks.
Pete Rock.
Deja vu, tell you what I'm gonna do when they reminisce over you, my God.
Q-Tip.
I mean, well, I heard him on the barbecue, but then Large played me his like, I was like, cool, this dude is crazy, you know what I'm saying? So I knew that it was gonna be the impact it was.
And Large Professor. The sheer presence of multiple legends on one project created a competitive cycle, pushing each producer to deliver their absolute best. The album's production process was a minefield of emotional wounds and escalating conflict. Nas almost got dropped from the label multiple times. There were incidents involving his brother Jungle bringing a gun into the label's office, which upset the president. The sample clearances were brutal. The most difficult sample to clear wasn't Michael Jackson, but the audio from the classic hip-hop movie, Wild Style, used in the iconic classic intro, The Genesis.
Yo, Nas, yo, what the fuck is this bullshit on the radio, son? Chill, that's the shit, girl.
Then, there were problems surrounding The World Is Yours. During the week the album was being mixed, MC Search was sitting Shiva, a 7-day period of formalized mourning for his deceased grandmother. Pete Rock's brother, who was acting as his manager, called Search demanding a check, allegedly saying he did not care about Search's grandmother's passing. He wanted his money. The conflict around this album seemed endless. But as they say, the more difficult the journey, the more meaningful the victory.
While it may be frightening, it will also be rewarding. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
But just as they were nearing the finish line, another disaster struck. Rampant bootlegging. Search and Faith Newman discovered a staggering 70,000 bootleg copies of Illmatic months before the official launch. This forced Columbia to rush the release, resulting in the iconic 10-track album we know today.
I'm saying that's what this is all about, right? Clothes, bank rolls, and hoes, you know what I'm saying? Yo, then what, man? What?
Life's a bitch and then you die. That's why we puff lie.
I woke up early on my born day. I'm 20 is a blessing. The essence of adolescence leaves my body now freshened. My physical frame is celebrated cause I made it. 1/4 through life, some godly like thing created. Got rhymes, 365 days annual plus some. Load up the mic and bust one. Cuss while I putz from my skull cause it's pain in my brain vein. Money.
Illmatic was released on April 19, 1994. Critically, it was immediately hailed as a masterpiece, earning the coveted 5-mic rating from The Source. Commercially, however, it was a slow burn, selling around 63,000 units in its first week, a commercial disappointment. It took a full 7 years to reach platinum status. However, as far as the streets were concerned, Illmatic made an instant connection, delivering an honest vision of life in New York that was impossible to ignore. This debut began from the concrete reality of Queensbridge and took off as if ceilings didn't exist, lines so authentic that even behind bars the record traveled like contraband. Nas explicitly transformed his loss, his pain, and his drive for success into music that would become classic, like One Love, dedicated to those who were incarcerated, turning his voice into something between a mirror and a map for people trapped on both sides of the pavement. To understand how Nas was embraced in the New York prison system, you are about to hear an OnPoint Stories exclusive from St. Laz, who was sitting in Comstock when Illmatic dropped. He breaks down exactly what it felt like when Nas's voice moved past those prison gates and hit every tear. This is the first ever OnPoint Stories featured guest. Please subscribe to his channel because his stories are insane.
Yo, Laz, that's word to Fly Top. They had guns in there, cuz. Real guns, man. How the f*** y'all get hammers in here?
And show love if you want to see more collabs like this.
Hey yo, LAZ, if you don't consider Nas one of the greatest lyricists that ever lived, you could put my balls on a pita bread with hummus and tahini and take that to the face. You heard? Nobody asked you anything, nigga. Yo, so when I went up north to do 6 years in New York State Prison, one of the first spots I landed in was Comstock, which was basically one of the worst prisons in New York State. And I was fresh off the street, meaning when I came up top, I was out on bail when I got sentenced. I came from Rikers Island, but I wasn't laid up on Rikers Island for mad long before I hit up north. So I was fresh off the streets. I'm talking about when I was in Comstock, I was literally in the streets 3 or 4 months before that. So I came through the doors with a lot of recent New York information, because when dudes is upstate in prison, they kind of get news late, music news, and you know, the hottest new rappers and the hottest new songs, they kind of get that information late. So I was on Rikers Island listening to Stretch Armstrong and Bobito. I was in the streets getting mixtapes. You feel what I'm saying? I was hip to a lot of the new rap that was out. And one of the dudes I was hip to was the bro Nas, because Nas had dropped, while I was out on bail in '93, Nas had dropped that single on the Zebrahead soundtrack called Halftime. Right? That was first on the Zebrahead soundtrack before, you know, it came out on Illmatic, if I'm not mistaken. But I know I had heard that song on the Zebrahead soundtrack, right? So I started following Nas. I started hearing Nas on Stretch Armstrong and Bobito. One time he spit the whole Represent song. You heard? Like, he spit another verse that's not on the album. And I used to have all of that on cap, right? I had the whole Represent that he spit on that show on cap with the extra verse. Plus, you know, I knew Halftime and, you know, Live at the Barbecue verse. I knew these verses from being fresh out the streets, right? So when I was on, one day we was on B Block, I was on B7 in Comstock, and basically, you know, is a bunch of tiers on top of each other, but if you speak loud enough, everybody can hear you all up and down the tiers. So one night we on the tier debating hip hop, and dudes is, you know, we got into who's the best rapper in New York type vibes. And dudes was like, yo, Rakim and Redman, and whoever dudes was saying, they was naming a bunch of dudes. And I was like, yo, I'ma keep it real with you though. Is this new kid out? They call him Nasty Nas. I was like, son is a problem. And he like, word, he ain't better than Rakim though. I was like, shh. I said, yo, bro, listen, this dude is something like the world has never heard before. They like, man, ain't nobody, somebody on the tier under me was like, man, ain't nobody better than Rakim. I don't care who out. I don't want to hear that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, listen, this kid named Nas, his shit different, bro. I said, listen, I know some of his bars on cap. Y'all want me to spit his bars for you? I bet you if I spit these bars, you'll be amazed. And niggas is like, spit them shits. Bro, I got on the gate and spit the whole Represent song. Straight up shit is real, and every day could be your last in the jungle. Get murdered on the humble, guns a blast, niggas tumble. You heard? I spit that shit on the gate in Comstock and on B7, on B Block. The whole block was quiet, bro. I'm spitting verse after verse because I ran through the whole Represent. I'm spitting these bars on B Block. The whole block is quiet. You heard? Niggas had never heard no lyrics like this in their lives. It was just silent. When I finished spitting Represent, it was silence. And somebody was like, yo, who the fuck is that again? I said, his name is Nasty Nas. He from Queensbridge. Niggas was like, yo, that nigga sounding crazy. What the fuck is going on in New York City? Yo, spit more shit, son. What else that nigga got? I need to hear something else. I'm like, hold on, let me go through my mental Rolodex. And I just started spitting dudes, them Nas verses, bro. And niggas was open like, oh shit, I gotta get that nigga album. And literally, I was one of the first dudes that came upstate spreading the word about that Nas takeover. You heard? No pun intended. LAZ. But yo, shout out to OnPoint Stories. Make sure y'all subscribe, check the content, you heard?
While the wave Nas started was turning into a full-blown Category 5 hurricane, that was only one side of the story. Behind the scenes, shady business dealings were stacking up, the same kind that had crushed countless artists before him. But a single strategic decision Nas made when choosing his management wouldn't just save him. It would help him become a millionaire and allegedly put him in a position to own a piece of Jay-Z's publishing. But here is the deeper lesson in business integrity. Search was adamant about breaking the mold of predatory management. Because he ensured every detail was clean and every contract was sound, when the initial 165,000 copies sold, Nas became a millionaire who never had to look back. Search earned what he was owed, earning an honest 2%. Decades later, Jay-Z famously poked at Search during their rivalry, rapping about paying him for publishing. Search, who recognized the wordplay, revealed a stunning truth. During a sample clearance negotiation for Dead Presidents, Nas acquired 50% of Jay-Z's publishing. In a strange twist of fate due to a deal made long ago, Nas actually owns Jay-Z's publishing.
That shit is fucked up. And on another level, it's not for y'all to go. Y'all do not control any of my artists.
Here's the truth about that story. I was the head of promotion, CHR promotion at Def Jam. We were about to put out Reasonable Doubt. Biggs, Dame, and Jay came to me and they said, hey, we got to clear the sample on Dead Presidents. This is what we're going to take. I said, but we'll take 50% of the publishing. Nas owns Jay's publishing. Jay does not own Nas's publishing.
Across the belly. I prove you lost already.
The story behind Illmatic is an inspiring, poetic look into a world seen through Nas's eyes. It wasn't created as a glorification of the streets, but an honest portrayal of survival, struggle, and the reality he lived in. Nas captured the energy of the streets and turned it into poetry, proving that when you commit to your craft and build the right team to ensure fair, mutually beneficial business, success becomes inevitable. His story shows that skill, integrity, and focus aren't just talents. They're tools that can reshape your entire world. Illmatic became the blueprint for storytelling. If this OnPoint story gave you something to think about, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, drop your thoughts on Illmatic in the comments, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you subscribe.
Words of wisdom from Nas, trying to rise up above. Keep an eye out for Jake, shorty, wop, one love.